Namaste and great morning to all. People have asked me numerous times, what religion are you? Are you Hindu? Are you Buddhist? Are you Christian? Etc., etc. Well, one starts out in a religious base. Yes, I was a Christian and was in an order, an esoteric order. And then I was involved in Buddhism, and then I was involved in Hinduism. My last guru, yes, was a Hindu. Okay. But what takes place when one falls away into that absolute truth that is prior to mind, prior to intellect, then what happens is all of the religious persuasions go out the door. Because all of religion is constructed by minds that are in intellect, that want to objectify something that cannot be objectified. And so that's what religion is. Religion comes out of the fact that first you have those that are there to point to the absolute truth. But then men that are in mind and duality and intellect take that original, ultimate truth and then want to try to objectify it into a manner that they can understand. Just as there's so much misunderstanding about what the Linga represents. And so I wanted to touch a little bit about that. What does the Linga truly represent? Does it represent the male sex organ? Is it about sex? No, it has nothing at all to do with that. The Linga, if you go into the temple, and we'll talk about the temples at Khajuraho, the tantric temples. When you go into the temple and you look and you see the outside of the temple is constructed with all of the daily activities and the things of Maya that man is engaging into. Okay. And so when one starts to go into there and you look outwardly, you see Maya. But the further one goes into the temple, more still it becomes, the more one is leaving that expression of that duality behind. Okay. When one goes into the inner sanctum, then what is seen is the Linga. Okay. And the Linga is representing that absolute. It is representing that consciousness that is prior. It's representing the Parabrahman, Parashiva, that direct consciousness of is. It sits in the yoni. The yoni is representative of Maya. Okay, so Maya obstructs the seeing of that absolute. The Maya has to come from that absolute. The absolute is in the center and Maya spins around it. Okay? Maya spins around it. There cannot be Maya unless that primal is in place. Okay. So people have such a mistaken notion about what the Linga represents. It represents that ultimate consciousness. Okay. And another thing that I wanted to touch on this morning is people's misunderstanding of what's been given by many, many Advaita teachers, by Ramana, by Nisargadatta, by many, many of those trying to aid mankind to go forward to realization. And what's given out is just to remain in I am. I am is the first projection. Okay. But what they're trying to get you to do is not to say, I am this, I am that, I am all of these other things. Let's get to first the point of I am, without all the gathered and collected, objectified and desirous things that one is trying to collect. If one can get first to just I am, then one is drawn into this witness state. And eventually this I am will break and deconstruct into that which is prior to. Okay. So that's why the pointing of stay in I am. I am leads to oneness, and then oneness gives way to that which is prior to, which is realization. This is why when one falls away, it's I have never been born. This is why this is said. It's not that I am one with everything. No, I have never been born. I'm one without a second. God, as an objectified being, is a manifestation of intellect that has to see something separate. But the reality is that it is not separate. And for God to exist, one has to say there has to be something other than. And with realization, that deconstructs. For that is all there is. Okay? So again, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about teachings, pointings, and why they're given, and what they're meant to do. People take it and want to use it and think that that's the whole of it. That if I get to I am and I just spout I am and I just cling to I am, that I'm already there. And they don't understand a lot of the pointings that are given. And I've watched a few videos and also have it within the experience here that when people come and they want to know about what it is to be within that consciousness of absolute, what it is to be within the non-dual consciousness, invariably they will want to try to see it from the mind of duality and try to find a way to cling to it, to try to find a way to embrace it. But you can't embrace that which is prior to existence. You can't embrace something that is beyond mind with intellect. It's impossible. And so this is again why it's said it's impossible to explain it with words. Why there are only pointings. And the pointings are not it. It has to be an experiential thing. But when that experience happens, there's no one there, there's no experiencer there any longer. Okay? So the idea of lineages and all of this, they have to do with the world of duality. Lineages, etc., all of this stuff deconstructs with realization. A lineage may be in place and you'll get an idea as to what are the bases of teachings. You may get there. But the true Advaita teacher is there to deconstruct the conditioned mind and to break through all of those types of conditionings, all of those constructs, to take one to that ultimate reality of liberation. And it's not that there is something against any religious persuasion, don't get me wrong. You know, if you're in the mind of duality and you want to remain in duality and then Maya, that's wonderful. Enjoy it. Because they can help the persona to have something to go forward to cling to make their lives better. But to get off the wheel of karma and to understand what is that self, one has to be willing to broach and to go forward into that unknowing that's beyond knowledge. One has to be willing to give up their lives, so to speak, to enter into that which has always been liberated, which has always been free, which has always been simply that is, that one without a second, that Parabrahman, Parashiva, whichever you wish to call it, doesn't matter, names are not it. All names are constructs of duality, so I hope that this helps to lessen a bit of the confusion that's out there. And if people want to hear from direct Advaita, I'm most happy to give that. I'm most happy to speak from that reality as to what is that reality. But understand that reality, and speaking from that reality, is there to break through, to deconstruct the ideas and the gathered and collected identifications that you have to take you prior to. Namaste.